So I'd now like to turn the podium over to Chad Holliday, Chairman of the National Academy of Engineering and Chairman of Shell.
Thank you very much, Dan. Congratulations to all the new members today. Let's give them a big round of applause. But even more important, congratulations to the family members and friends that are in this room today and are with us in spirit that were so important to your accomplishments to be here today. They get a bigger round of applause. For the family members, you might not know exactly what has to happen to be walking across this stage in a few minutes. It starts with you can't apply for this job. You have to be recognized by a peer in the National Academy of Engineering. In fact, they're not even supposed to tell you they're nominating you. They do a lot of research on you to make sure you have the qualifications. They find multiple other members who will second that. And when you've met all those qualifications, you're just starting the process. It's a rigorous hurdle that only 1 in 9 actually walk across this stage. So it's a very special accomplishment, and I want you to know what your family member or friend has actually gone through to be here today. You will have many opportunities to serve in formal processes in the National Academy of Engineering. You heard about it in the orientation yesterday around committees and workshops and serve as an officer, and I highly encourage you to do that. But I'm going to talk about something else today, and that's those informal processes. And I think there's 2 aspects that you have after you walk across this stage that you didn't have before, and I urge you to take advantage of that opportunity. I don't place it as an obligation. Don't think of it as an obligation. Think of it as an opportunity, and it occurs every day the rest of your life, and it didn't happen before today. The first one is you've had a brand extension. Now, usually when you think about brands, you got Coca-Cola, IBM, Google. No, this is your personal brand. And you've got a great personal brand already, or you wouldn't be here. You have a great list of accomplishments. But after today, there's one more addition called Member National Academy of Engineering. And that's very special. And I urge you to think about as you're advertising your brand. Now, the way we advertise our brands as individuals, we introduce ourselves, right? To somebody we don't know, or we get acquainted with a friend we haven't seen in a long time. And why not say, I'm a member of the National Academy of Engineering. Now, if they're an engineer or focused on technology, they probably know what you're talking about. If they don't, they'll probably say, that's very nice, and go on. So you then have an opportunity to tell them what the National Academy of Engineering is about, and you can advance our brand. And so we serve the nation and everything engineering and technology. Our roots go back to President Abraham Lincoln, who understood the nation needed advice in engineering and technology, and it should not come from politicians. For some reason, he had this idea that politicians might look at engineering and technology with a political eye and be biased. After being in this town for a day, I'm sure you know that could never happen here. And he also knew if we were paid, we might be not quite so objective either, so we don't get paid for our work. So we are credible. We bring that to the world. It's at the federal level by our charter, but it can be at the city level, the state level, or anywhere in the world as we go forward. So I urge you to take forward that. I must also describe you have another obligation and an expectation that you might not have expected. When you say, I'm a member of the National Academy of Engineering, people think you know what you're talking about. You know your technology. But they also expect you to be able to explain it in a way that they can understand it. I don't mean talk down to them, but explain it in a way that's meaningful for them. And that is the expectation you have going forward. And if I could close today with a short story that exemplified this much better than I ever could have guessed as I was preparing this talk. Just 10 days ago, I was in New York, the United Nations. A few people were in town, the Pope, President Obama, some of his buddies from around the world, or not buddies from around the world. And I was invited to a dinner to honor the Pope. And since the Pope was actually speaking in Madison Square Garden, he was holding Mass that night, I didn't know how he wasn't going to be at the dinner. I was pretty sure he had another gig going, so it was going to happen. So it turned out it was a dinner to honor the scientists and engineers who many months earlier had met with the Pope to explain to him this issue of global warming and climate change. And they explained it to him in a way that with all the different issues he could take up, because he can't take them all up, he moved that up on his agenda to a very special way. So it was a great time to talk to them about what that was about. The leader of the group described the process they used to prepare to talk to the Pope. They researched over 700 different papers, so hundreds of thousands of pages of data around global warming and climate change. They condensed all that down to a couple thousand pages. And he had a big stack of charts, and he had a couple thousand pages. And as they were going in before they made the Pope, they said, okay, how much time do I have? How many charts can I show? How many time? The response was, you can say 2 sentences. And he responded back, you don't understand. No, 2 sentences. And it was right. So think about from your discipline, and you have a chance to talk to the Pope or anybody else, and you only have 2 sentences to explain your life's work, 700 pages, 700 documents. So I will get this not perfectly right, but his 2 sentences were, Your Holiness, this global warming and climate change is real, and it's bad for the world, period. Second sentence, Your Holiness, the 3 billion poorest people in the world will be the most impacted by this result, period. That was his 2 sentences. I think the Pope did have a few questions on that. But if you look back at what the Pope actually said in New York last week, he said those 2 sentences a lot of times, over and over. So the challenge to you, maybe you can't get your lifetime's work down to 2 sentences, but if the Pope was challenging you, that's what he'd probably say. So my challenge to you today is you get up and serve, take the opportunities, find ways to explain what you know about science and technology in a way that everybody can understand it. It can make a real difference. And I know we can take this organization forward. Please welcome Dan Moat back for his presidential address. Thank you very much.
I'm working about 2 sentences. Let me see if I can get this down. That's going to be a little bit tough, I think. Well, next year I'll practice that, my 2 sentences. I think it's a good idea, by the way, the 2-sentence idea. Thank you very much for that.